Three friends, one amazing series of YA novels, an insatiable thirst to relive the glory that is K.A. Applegate's literary masterpiece. This is Animorphs, the Dork-Bajir Chronicles.
Hello and welcome to the Dork-Bajir Chronicles, a podcast where we read through the Animorphs series one book at a time and then talk about it every week. Today we'll be talking about Animorphs number 27, The Exposed. My name is Mikhail, the host.
I'm Tessa, the expert.
And I'm Brayden, the healthy baby boy, baby, reborn. Fuck you.
Yeah, you do sound a lot better.
He's finally accepted some kind of religion into his life, but unfortunately it's this weird dwarven religion where they touch, like, nickel. So he's been rubbing pennies all over himself.
Yeah.
And turns
Classic.
out you can get better if you do that. Pro tip to everyone with a cold out there.
Speaking of controversial opinions, let's jump into some fan mail.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah. Fan mail! Ooh, yeah. Fan mail! Ooh, yeah.
So first piece of fan mail, it's a pretty hot take also from Jenna from our Facebook page, who replied, so I had made a meme about Tobachel versus Rachel Co. And Jeff had said, me, an intellectual, actually, it's Marchel? Which, okay. But Jenna makes a good point. No, Rachel always comes first. Which, listen, I thought it was funny. Listen, not all of us can get that level of humor. So,
I mean,
just saying.
That's, yeah. No, I get it. Yeah, that's definitely...
You get it. You just don't think it's funny. Listen, I like our fans. I don't have like a hate blog about them like Brayden does.
I love our
Wait,
fans.
we have fans? Wait, we have people who listen to us talk about Animorphs? Why?
The second piece of fan mail is from... Actually, he's been on fan mail before. Kevin from our Facebook group. Mm-hmm. We had a long discussion on a meme from September 26th. It was like a Yu-Gi-Oh meme. But basically, we had a long back and forth about why exactly Tobias. I personally think Tobias made a mistake staying as a hawk. And we can get into that. But he had some good counter arguments. Anyways, check that out. That is from September 26th of 2018.
Was that on Twitter or the Facebook group?
That's from the Facebook group.
Okay, I can't get too much into the Facebook group because, or the Twitter really, because spoilers. But I'd love to.
I don't want to get into it right now because that's, you've already talked about it. I'm just going to say I'm siding with Kevin. If Kevin is the one who's like, Tobias should have stayed a bird, no. Tobias staying as a bird and keeping the morphin powers, smart move, Tobias.
Anyways, that's it for fan mail for this week. I think it's my turn to do the summary because Brayden did the last one. Am I right? So we'll get the goof, which ends up kind of being the B plot as well, sort of out of the way.
Yeah.
The goof is, I guess it's more just a B plot. But anyways, Rachel, the book starts out with Rachel doing gymnastics stuff in gymnastics class. She's kind of in her head a little bit, but she says it helps, I guess, focusing and stuff like that. Anyways, she has a bit of a meet cute with a guy named TT.
And this is how you already know that this is a ghostwritten book, because no way would a gymnastics teacher let a boy called TT into their gymnastics class.
He's like, I swear, it's my real name.
Did I ever tell you guys about my mom's a teacher, and this one time this dude, she teaches at an elementary school, and this one time this high school guy starts walking around the halls of the school looking for this grade oneer, and he's wearing these tinted goggles like a fucking steampunk weirdo, and he's going around looking for this grade oneer, poking his head into classes. And then finally the principal stops him and is like, hi, sorry, just, you're his brother or something, right? Or his cousin or something. And he's like, no, I just need to talk to him. Just need to say hey.
Oh my god, that's so creepy.
That's so creepy. I hate that. That's got to be illegal or something.
Anyway, I think that guy was named TT.
Bringing it back. That's what happened to TT after the 90s.
TT. Titty boy.
TT lays some mad game down on Rachel, but she's pretty much pretty clear about like, no, I don't want to go to dinner with you or whatever.
I'm horny for that cloaca.
They're trying to reintroduce, I guess, the fact that she's into Tobias, or they're like dating.
It's very official in this book.
Bird dating.
I think the goof actually from this book is that Rachel runs into Cassie in the mall, and that's the whole.
That's a better goof. What is Cassie doing in the mall?
Because Cassie's buying sex oil for Jake's, like, I don't know, massive dong that he needs sex oil for. She's got some kind of oil which is like not addressed at all, but doesn't matter. The B plot returns at the very end where TT asks Rachel out again, and then calls her a name that quote unquote she's been called before. Because she rejects him yet again.
This does feel kind of fanficky, this one, because it's like an original character asks a main cast member out.
Yeah.
And then they go to the mall and have minor sort of in-jokey capers. And then another major character appears out of nowhere and is in the middle of their own problems.
Totally. Although sort of not really, because Cassie wasn't just randomly there. I don't even know why they had to write it that way. They could have just been like, Rachel and Cassie go to the mall.
Well, because Cassie doesn't do gymnastics, so that would have...
Yeah, but it's like, hey, do you want to meet up at the mall? Sure thing. Done. Easy. We don't need this sex oil plot. Anyways.
It's not sex oil, it's bath oil for her mom.
Yeah, sure. Her mom and her dad, I guess. I don't know.
Her mom and her dad asked her to go out and get some sex oil for them.
Gross!
Yeah, her mom's like, you need to get this very specific brand and don't read the direction.
No, the whole reason is that gets the kid out of the house so that they can use up the last of the old sex oil.
Oh, wow. 2 birds with 1 stone. That's amazing.
Close your eyes. Go in this direction. You'll be in a store. Just tell the person... Cassie's mom and dad sent you. They'll know what we need.
It's a real contrast to Rachel's story, which some would say it's 2 birds, 1 bone.
Oh.
Hey! Tessa level jokes over here. Anyways, A plot, which is the majority of the book, is... We'll just get started here. Rachel and Cassie run into each other. They also run into Eric, the Chee, the dog android.
Yeah.
Who's like super powerful, but a pacifist, so he's boring. His hologram, his like super sophisticated hologram and force field system that makes him look like a normal boy is fucking up. Like, it's like, for one thing, the force field's not even there, so they can touch his like android self. But also his hologram's like flickering, and he's like slowly experiencing paralysis, if I remember right.
Yeah, it's a transmission problem.
Yeah. So, anyways, they kind of shuttle him off. I think they go to Spencer's Gifts.
They hide him in the corner of Spencer's Gifts because it's like the most logical place in the mall where you would see a dog android. The cooking robot bit is one of my favorite bits.
Yeah, that's sort of, whatever. Anyways, we'll get to it. So Rachel goes to call Jake and Marco to basically bring Eric, the real Eric, some clothes so they can kind of sneak him out of the mall. Marco comes as a gorilla and basically assaults the cashier of Spencer's Gifts so that he won't ask questions.
Yeah.
But when Rachel gets back to Cassie, she's like trying to tell people that because now Eric has totally lost his hologram, so he looks like a fucking android robot, and she tells people he's like, what is it, kitchen droid?
A kitchen droid, yeah. The new greatest and latest kitchen droid. And then the manager goes and talks to his own manager, and then comes back and is like, hey, I just talked to my manager on the phone. There's no such thing as a kitchen droid. And that's when they're trying to like dress the android. So that's when Marco like taps him on the head and knocks him out.
I like how in your vision of corporate structure at Spencer's Gifts, just every employee is a manager of some level or another.
It helps them like feel ownership over their job, Mikhail. It's like how everyone in Starbucks is a partner because they all have shares.
That's bullshit. I hate it when people fucking do that. Anyways, they sneak Eric out with human clothes on.
And a Bill Clinton mask.
Marco comes as a gorilla, so it's like, okay, holy fuck. Like, you could easily carry him out, but also it's a gorilla at the mall. This is important because it comes up later.
They can't carry him out unless he's a gorilla because he weighs hundreds and hundreds of pounds.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know. That's what I just said.
Oh, okay. I thought you said that him being a gorilla was unnecessary because, like, these human children could carry him out.
it's necessary to mention that because later there's something that comes up that is relevant to him being a gorilla.
Okay.
The thing with the security cameras. Anyways, they go meet up with Eric's quote-unquote dad, which is just another Chee in hologram. And basically he explains, I love that he's like, they describe him as frozen in front of a TV in a lazy boy with a pretzel stick in his hand.
Yep. Arm on the remote and the pretzel stick in his hand, and he's just frozen.
Right.
It made me want a pretzel.
Exactly. It made me want a soft pretzel, actually.
A soft pretzel. Soft pretzels are so good.
Okay. Then Eric's dad explains that, like, something is up with the ship, the Chee ship, or I guess it's the Pemalite ship at the bottom of the ocean. That's like something's been activated in it that is fucking up all the Chee's stuff, except for a few specific things. The main one being they all have like an intranet. Every single Chee on the planet can like communicate with each other instantaneously.
Mainly to talk shit about other Chee.
Yeah, right. Oh my god, can you believe what fucking, like, I don't even, what's a good name? Can you believe what Leslie did? Holy fuck.
Holy fuck.
What a bitch.
Or just like,
Trash
remember when we were
bitch.
building the pyramids, guys? Those were good times. Anyway, I guess I'm homeless now. Bye.
Oh yeah, okay, we'll get to that. So they describe, because Eric's dad, or they all know, like all the Chee know that there are only 2 Chee, I guess nearby or on the whole planet, it's hard to tell, that are in danger of being discovered. One of them is a guy who's working at a nuclear plant, but he can lock himself in a closet, presumably until 10 o'clock that night. I get the feeling that it's like noon, kind of, at this point.
It's about, because Rachel had rehearsal, or she had practice with the gymnastics in the morning. So yeah, I think it's about noon. They do mention after this escapade that you're about to describe, it is 2 o'clock. So they have 8 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'd say
Basically.
it's about noon o'clock right now.
Noon o'clock, got it. But anyways, the other person is a homeless girl, but she's far more at risk because the police are about to do a raid. Like, when I say homeless girl, I mean a Chee disguised as a homeless girl. The police are about to do a raid on the halfway or crack house, I guess, that she's staying in. And they know for a fact that there are controllers on the SWAT team that are going to do the raid. So it's like the thing that's at stake in this book is the Yeerks finding a Chee and using their technology to help them in their invasion efforts. So that is pretty serious, actually. So the stakes are pretty high at this point. Anyways, the Animorphs decide that they can't help the nuclear plant guy because it's like way too secure, but he'll also be okay until 10 p.m. This girl's being raided in 20 minutes, which is like fucking wild if you think about it.
Yep.
Yeah. So they plan and basically just book it. Like they go to they describe the ghetto. It's actually the first time other than like number 5, where we hear about Marco's kind of poor people apartment. This is the first time we're hearing like, oh, this city has like an actual ghetto area.
Right.
Where there's crack houses and stuff, right? Which I thought was a pretty good clue for location for you, Brayden. But not like it eliminates that much, but at least now we know it's like probably a city, right? A big city.
Right.
Yeah, versus your like 1,000 people small towns that have a zoo combo amusement park.
Yeah.
Well, I come from a relatively small town that still has like bad parts of town, though.
Totally, but you don't have like tenement houses with that are inhabited by drifters and stuff. And because I grew up in a small town and that didn't exist there, but now...
I mean, I lived in a small town and all of it was the bad side of town. Does that count?
Yes, it does. Anyways, they go to save her. It is actually like kind of the first swell in the narrative graph because it's a really fucking intense fight.
It's so intense.
Yeah. Everyone morphs their like most damaging or like most environmentally damaging morphs because I guess their strategy is just they're not trying to kill people, they're just trying to cause an insane amount of damage and extract this one girl. So Rachel morphs the elephant.
The guy who's like fencing a bunch of stolen goods and is the reason why the police are raiding the house is this controller named like Straker or something.
That's my dad's name. Are you
I
making fun of
know, it's so funny.
It's totally not, but I did like hearing you pause after I said that. So they morph like their most damaging morphs. So Jake morphs rhino, Rachel's elephant. Cassie morphs wolf, as usual. Garbage morph. But anyways, like, seriously, get a better morph.
Yeah, this is like, a lot of people are upset that Cassie doesn't have like a special battle morph. And in some of the fan fiction, they give her like a moose morph or something. And she just like goes around swinging those huge antlers.
That's a perfect morph for her also, because it's like a herbivore. Anyways.
Exactly.
Tobias and Axe aren't there just because of the way the timing worked out. It was so rushed. So there's a whole shitload of stuff happens. Marco and Cassie look like they're basically dead because of this controller crack dealer guy, or fencer. That's what he was. I guess they couldn't use crack dealer in a kid's book. Fencer makes more sense.
They did describe someone being so stoned they couldn't move away from
I know,
the elephant.
that was wild.
So
So Rachel has like a rage fit and destroys everything, gets to Lured, which is the name of the poor Chee girl, or homeless girl who is actually a Chee, and saves her. Cassie and Marco are pretty much okay.
Misery tourism, right?
Yeah, this was intense. This was easily the most like, holy fuck, this is so real on a not just violence level, but like socioeconomic level. Yeah,
I'm a robot. I don't have to eat, and I literally could never get high or addicted to drugs, but I'm just going to be watching for a little while as all of you do starve and die from drug addiction.
That is pretty intense. Anyways, Tobias shows up at the end when the SWAT team gets there, and he's like, he grabs one of their guns, and they're all hiding, like all the cops now are hiding behind their cars kind of thing, while Tobias just flaps around with his fucking Glock, which I thought was the funniest image of the whole thing, and totally in contrast with everything else.
Well, he does it to kind of distract them, because they've got their cars surrounding Jake the rhino. It's like, they're like, here's a rhino, quick, trap him, guys. And they drive their cars in a circle so that Jake is trapped. So yeah, Tobias has to just like do some, remember, I think it was book 3 where he stole the Draken beam and was John Woo or something. Someone made a good joke, Hawk Woo, about this director with lasers.
Yeah, it was good. Anyways, that was kind of just the first climax of the book. There's like so much more that happens. So they save the Chee girl. That's fine. That was like the first immediate thing. But then they need to get to the ship, the Pemalite ship, in order to turn off this paralysis hologram disruptor before 10 p.m. tonight, which is like a pretty fucking wild undertaking. At some point in all of this, they find out that, I think it was like from the news or something like that, they find out that the security cameras at the mall weren't working when Marco was in Gorilla Morph carrying Eric out, and they're like, wait a minute, that is fucking very coincidental. And they mention like, hey, we're getting jerked around a bit here, maybe. So the second piece of being jerked around is that they then see on the news that a sperm whale is washed up on the beach right after they discuss the fact that only a giant squid can get to the depth that they need to get to, and the only way they could find a giant squid is by morphing a sperm whale, which eats giant squid.
Bum, bum.
Ridiculous. Yeah, and it was, I assumed immediately, since I haven't read this in a very long time, Ellimist, right? Like, Brayden, I'm assuming you thought it was the Ellimist.
Well, I did assume Krayak, because, I don't think the element, like, I just didn't think that the writers would make it so that the Ellimist killed a fucking whale in the 90s when, like, beached whales were pretty much, like, second place to the Holocaust as far as, like, national tragedies went.
And see, the only thing it's funny that you said that, because that's, like, very informed. My thing was just like, oh, they wouldn't have 2 books in a row where they have to fight Krayak. Because remember 26? They're basically fighting Krayak, and it's like, oh, that's really lazy. Like, the next 2 books are just about Krayak.
It's literally explained at the end of this book. I was the only one who read this book today immediately before recording. I'll get to it when we get there, but it's explained that they're doing this for payback for winning the fight on the Iskort planet.
Yeah, that's fair. Anyways, it doesn't really matter. They're all like okay, this is a super high coincidence, but can we really afford to ignore it considering what's at stake? So they do some short straw, long straw shit, and Rachel and Tobias decide, or find out, I guess, by cheating, because Tobias saw which was the short straw.
Because his hawk eyes have X-ray vision. Ooh.
Yeah. Anyways, Rachel and Tobias acquire the sperm whale, but they have to do it really carefully because the sharing is at the beach, like, quote unquote, helping the sperm whale by throwing water on its back, which I guess helps it, but the real problem is, like, it's crushing itself under its own weight.
Yeah.
Anyways, there's a little bit where Tobias hooks his claws into the back of the sperm whale to acquire it, and then his claws get stuck as a barnacle, or on a barnacle, sorry. So they basically have to morph seagulls and, like, dive bomb him before Tom and Chapman notice. But of course, Tom and Chapman are there. Why wouldn't they be there, right?
And they totally notice, and like Tom is throwing rocks at Tobias, trying to kill him with a rock.
Yeah, it's like, oh, here to save the whale, but fuck hawks. Like, I guess. Anyways. No, yeah, imagine he's standing there and he's like, he's looking at the hawk, and in his mind, he's like desperately trying to think that he can say out loud to make this make sense. And he's like, the hawk is killing the whale.
It's hurting it. It's trying to hunt the whale.
Oh god. Anyways, I think they fly out a bit into the ocean. No, they morph dolphins and they float. They don't describe it very well, but it's like Eric's dad gives them some vague instructions on where the ship is. So they swim to where they think it is, roughly, as dolphins. At least Rachel and Tobias demorph.
So Axe has his bio clock and coordinates and stuff, so he can kind of coordinate a little bit from where Mr. Chee said it should be. Eric's dad, Mr. King is his proper name. Eric's dad also said that the Yerks, the Pemalite ship is no longer cloaked, so the Yerks can find it on their scanning devices. So it's not only a race against time, it's a race against the Yerks. They're there at the ocean, and they have 2.5 hours.
Yeah, there's a lot of unknowns, like, would the Yerks even know to look for it? But then at the same time, it's like, is that a risk worth taking? Let's just go as fast as humanly possible. So they morph into the sperm whales, Tobias and Rachel. They dive. There's a lot of description of shit that is just, like, horrifying to me, where it's like, oh yeah, I'm like 8,000 feet below the surface of the water. Like, if I demorph now, I would just instantly die. And even if I could start floating, I would get the bends and kill myself. Right, so the sperm whales have echolocation, very good echolocation, actually. And I know this for a fact from Life of the Gardens research, but at the same time, the description of, like, not being able to see anything, because there's literally no light that can make it down. It's a trigger fear for me in a weird way. Yeah,
no, it was horrifying. It was absolutely horrifying.
Their first dive is a failure. They don't find any squid or anything. They argue about being boyfriend and girlfriend, sort of. Tobias is like, oh, why didn't you go out with TT?
Because his name is fucking TT. Jesus H.
Yeah. And Rachel, in a very, like, adolescent move, she's just, like, not really saying outright, like, because I like you. You know, like, they're doing a lot of dancing around it.
She accidentally tells him, like, he's trying to make small talk because he's, like, a bird turned into a whale. And he's like, okay, this is fine. I can't fly. Whatever. Anything new with you, Rachel? Mm-hmm. She's like, yeah, some dude asked me out. Oh, shit. Why on earth did I say that to you? Because she knows that Tobias has his whole thing, like, you should go on a date with TT. I'm not good enough for you because I'm always a bird and I can never be a person full time. Like, and she just doesn't want to get into it because she does, like, Rachel does not like touching her feelings, which is like, girl, I relate. Feelings are the worst.
Anyways, back to the plot. During this dive, also, they learn a pretty critical thing, which is that they can fire their echolocation pings so loud or hard that they can actually, like, cause things to have temporary paralysis, like a school of fish and stuff. I didn't find any evidence for that, but let's just say that's a thing that can happen. They go back down. They confer with the Animorphs. They go back down. This time, they do find a squid, and Tobias finds the ship. Rachel gets in a fight with a squid, which, frankly, sounds horrifying from the description. Mostly because squids are, like, the craziest fucking thing in the entire world, and a
They're the
60-foot squid is horrifying to
They're the
think
worst.
about. But Tobias comes in, saves Rachel, essentially, and they knock the squid out and sort of drag it back to the surface so everyone can morph it. They do. They acquire the squid. They go back down to the Chee ship. They keep talking about time and how they're running out of time and blah, 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 blah. They make it to the ship. Actually, there's a cool part where, because Eric's dad described how the ship would actually have like an environmental adapter function where no matter what kind of being goes into the ship, it will adapt the environment to that being, because the Pemalites were like trying to be friends with everyone in the universe, I guess. Pretty stupid use of a very cool technology. But anyways, for a ship, anyways.
That's just because you hate friendship, Mikhail.
I just think the concept of the Pemalites in general is just like, we can get into that, I guess, in a minute here. So they get in, and the ship creates these like bubbles of water that move as they jet around, because that's how squids move, by like propelling their legs forward, kind of. So they get around fine, and they can even reach out of the bubble with their tentacles to touch stuff and then come back in, and they're totally fine. So they get to the panel. Oh yeah, the code to get access to stuff is just the digit 6.
Yep, everyone remember the password. 6.
Yeah. But obviously, they find out that the Yeerks are getting there just after they do. There's a description of a bug fighter that is underwater.
Yeah.
Is that a thing that can happen that we know about? So. Because the Dork-Bajir in number 15 had like stupid scuba gear rocket packs. Remember?
Well, it definitely wasn't as deep as that.
That's true.
The Yeerks just like to splash in the water. Right before the Yeerks show up, though, this weird little creature steps out from behind the tree where all of the panels and buttons are, and it introduces
he calls
itself
himself
as
the Droad.
And it is...
Oh, you take it away. It's your summary.
He's like he's got like little dinosaurs.
No, I'm being sarcastic. It's my summary. No. What the fuck?
You forgot
this is a critical turning point. Okay. Brayden, speak up in my defense, please. Thank you.
Because you were wondering why they would do Kryak back to back, and I'm like, because they gotta introduce the Droad. Hello.
I mean, they didn't No, they didn't have to introduce the Droad. I think
whatever.
I will get into this a bit later once we've done the wrap up, but honestly, I do not believe that the Droad was necessary. But I'll get into why exactly when we're
Also agree. Anyways. You're right, Tessa. The Droad did show up minutes or even seconds before the Yeerks showed up. So I'm sorry I got that out of order.
Well, because he's the one that turns the ship hull from opaque to see-through so that the Yeerks see them as squid.
Yeah, but Kryak could have done that.
But they would have just come in, and they also would have just come in and seen them as squid. Like, it's not really that important that he did that. Anyways, it doesn't matter. The Droad shows up. We infight a lot on this podcast, and he describes to them that he's a wild card, which is not described and is also not how he, like, plays his role at all. But anyways, he talks about how he's a servant of Kryak, and Kryak is mad at Jake specifically, but that he's really interested in Rachel as a person because... rage, I guess. That's pretty weak, but anyways. He's here to wreck the Animorphs for wrecking the Howlers. The Yeerks come in, and the Droid basically disappears. Like, he just walks behind a tree that's way too small for him to hide behind, and then disappears. Basically, he's magic, is what they're trying to say. They have a big fight. It's very gory, lots of intense fighting, obvious battle morphs, like the tiger and shit like that. The Droid is also like taunting them kind of the whole time. Isn't there a moment where he like steps out of the way or something? I can't remember what it was. So
they're battling. The Yeerks see them as the squid, and the Droid is like, haha, so here you go. Now you're gonna fail and die. And they're like, but you said you don't interfere with sentient creatures, and that's why you were going to make a wave crash on that whale to bring it back. And he's like, yeah, there's a way to solve this. So technically I'm not sentencing you to your death, but it's not my fault if you can't figure out the clue. And then Cassie's like, all right, guys, let's just ink the bubble, and then we can morph inside the bubble. So they do that.
Yeah, he also says that the sperm whale is going to be fine because it's too close to sentience.
Yeah.
So we know that the sperm whale will wash off the beach.
Don't worry,
somehow.
everyone. So Rachel's a grizzly bear. It's a really bad fight. She gets a thing with a Dork-Bajir, and they're both knocked over, and then she and the Dork-Bajir, she's lying on top of this Dork-Bajir. She's, like, staring into his eyes, and they have, like, a moment. And then he, goes to attack her, and the moment's over.
Yeah, so Eric shows up as the Animorphs are like, hey, we're obviously going to die here. And he, like, bounces around the fucking thing and heads to the tree, which is the console panel they were accessing before. He hits a thing that basically slows down time for everyone except for him and the Droid. So literally everyone's, like, going in slow motion. The Droid is mad because that wasn't supposed to happen, but it is, he can't do anything about it, I guess. For no reason, he can't do anything about it. So he fucks off, and the ship's computers basically are like, listen, y'all can't fight on this ship. And it, like, ushers them out. The Yeerks and the Animorphs are basically kicked off the ship. There's an ellipsis, so presumably they, like, had time to morph back into squids and get out of there, and so on and so forth. It doesn't explain how the Yeerks wouldn't just wait for the Animorphs outside the ship. Also, I guess they must move the ship. They don't describe anything about where why if the ship stays there, but, like, the Yeerks know where the ship is now.
No, so, they move the ship. Mr. King goes and he moves the ship at an even deeper elevation.
Did they say that?
Yeah, that's explicitly said. It's also explicitly said that, yes, they do morph back into their, like, they go into the chamber and it fills up with water and they morph into squid and swim out of there. Like, don't worry, readers, there's no ... They do explicitly explain it.
I mean, it's pretty easy to imagine. Like, it's not really a big deal. Anyways, at the end, there's, anyways, there's, like, a freak tidal wave thing that pulls the sperm whale back out. We don't see that. That's all just, like, explained in the narration. And then we wrap up with what I said at the very beginning, which was that TT comes back to ask Rachel out again, calls her a name that she says, I've been called before. She rejects him, he calls her that name after she rejects him, and then her and Tobias, like, fuck, I guess? I don't know. I'm assuming after an act of bravado like that, that they bone.
It's described in book 32, but, like, Rachel's bald eagle morph is a dude, and then Tobias's hawk morph is also a dude. And, I mean, I guess hawks and eagles just have cloaca, but I don't know if those cloaca fit together like male-female cloacas do.
You know what a prostate is, right?
Birds don't have prostates.
Ooh, maybe not your birds.
Oh my god.
Anyways, also, I like this book.
They can both morph human.
Okay, can I actually say though, this is one of the few Animorphs books that I owned as a kid. So I read it a whole lot. And I think it's pretty good. It's got a good mix of humor. Like, there's a bit where they're discussing, like, the whole plan for the squid, and it's just what Mikhail says. It's slapstick verbal comedy. It's great. But it's also horrifying. All of the depictions of being crushed by the water is why I'm afraid of the deep, dark, open ocean, and also of squids. Animorphs made me hate squids and ants.
I have nearly drowned before. Water is my enemy. The sea, my enemy.
This is the book where Axe describes about how he ate a snail and then he, like, couldn't shit it out. I was like, what? It raises so many questions.
They interrupt that story and it's like, Axe, wait, do you actually poop? Did you barf through your foot? How did you get rid of the snail shell?
There was some infuriating moments too, like where they're arguing about calamari, is it squid or octopus? And then they come to the conclusion that calamari is octopus, and it's like, it's not though. Calamari is definitely squid. Ugh. I did like the conversation about the 20,000 Leagues. That was good.
20,000 Leagues versus Voyage, and they're just like, what is going on? And then at the beginning of the book, they have this whole conversation where Rachel, so after she calls Jake at the mall, she goes and buys Eric some clothes so they can sneak him out of there, and she buys him underwear. As if
Calvin Klein.
But it's as if, like, Rachel, he's an android. He doesn't have a functioning butthole that he needs to hide away from the rest of his clothes.
She wants to see them in them tighties. See that robo-bulge.
The only reason that I wear underwear is to hide my butthole also.
It's the reason why everyone wears underwear, is to hide your butthole from...
Does Eric have a cock when he puts up his illusion? That's what I need to know.
Oh, God.
And how hard is that force field? Am I right?
Ooh, static. Can you imagine getting a static shock down there? Ooh.
Yes. Yes, I can.
Cassie just like, oh, this thing can make Julie Ann's fries. And some smartass is like, do you mean Julian fries? Which, if you don't know, to Julian chop something is to like kind of matchstick it. Like it's a specific kind of way to chop. And Cassie has no idea. She's like, they can make anyone's fries. This is a kitchen droid. Derp derp.
I can see why you like Cassie.
I like Abby.
If I heard someone not know what julienne fries were, I'd shoot them in the teeth.
Rachel's sisters having this conversation about the news thing, and like one of them smirks at the other one, and the other one is just like, you're ugly when you do that. Like, fucking savage. Just like a sister
Yeah, that
would
is
say.
insane. That is the most intense part of this whole book.
The most
it's
intense
just
part.
that one comeback of just like, it's not even clever, you're just ugly. Fuck.
I mean, Sarah, to be fair, Sarah is like 10. No, I think she's like 8. So she's just learning how to cut people down emotionally.
Yeah, good. Do it. You're going to need it. It's an important tool. What do you think the Pemalite ship would do when you guys walked in? Or when each of you walked in, I should say.
I think it would give me a segue.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
Because it knows I've always wanted to ride one. And underneath the ocean, you have no shame.
That is the rule, I think. Underwater, there is no shame.
I was driving the other day and I saw a guy, like I stopped at a red light and a guy went through the crosswalk riding on a Segway, and he had like
Nice.
a reflective vest, and I swear either he had a backpack or the Segway had little saddlebags on it. Either way, I wanted to steal this man's look and also ride on a Segway.
Did he tip his hat towards you?
No, but he
when
was
drove
wearing
past?
a helmet because he's safe.
Holy fuck, that's amazing.
You know, they make helmets with brims now so that you can tip your helmet.
My driver? Yeah. Anyways, I think my personal Pemalite environment would have like a bunch of like flat screen TVs all facing me inside my bubble at all times, and like every video game console but it's all in one box, and I could just be like press a button to switch between them.
So like a Raspberry Pi or something?
Yeah, except a Raspberry Pi can emulate like Super Nintendo.
Brayden, what would your personal thing be? Would it just be a guy holding a sign that says nothing matters, also your cock looks nice?
We all know I am not shy about my disgusting toe and choking related depravities. We all know exactly what's going on when I walk in that room. Do I have to say it out loud? Because I fucking will. Say it. I have to say it out loud.
I just thought it would be a big plate of sandwiches that you could put your penis into and then eat.
No, it would be a bunch of hot women to shove their toes in my mouth.
Oh,
that's way more tame than I thought it was
I
gonna
think
be.
we took this the wrong way. I'm pretty sure the whole environment thing is literally just the bubbles so that the squid don't asphyxiate. Everything else is still Pemalite designed.
Oh. Oh no, it would be a bunch of dog women. Fuck.
Do you think it designs like your environment to what it is you want, or what the computer knows that you need? Like, what if you show up right in and it's just a bunch of hot men?
And they've got the sexiest toes.
I don't think a computer is allowed to tell me my sexuality. I'm not gonna say that like a computer could never tell my sexuality, but like, do we really want to live in a world where like what would that mean? Fucking nothing. Like, I show up in a room and it's like, well, this computer thinks I want to fuck dudes, but I mean, I don't.
Brayden, you did say they just had to have attractive feet to put their feet in your mouth.
That's not what I said. I specified hot ladies.
Why are we arguing about this? I think for Tessa, it would just be like a wedding altar so she could finally have sex.
And it's just like a random, like just the one surviving Pemalite is standing underneath it with a bouquet, and he's like, hey,
you down? You down?
You down? And I'm like, no, we have to get to know each other over a period of 2 years and many service activities.
Service activities? Fetch my heart.
Shut up.
Oh, well, either way, I thought the whole Pemalite, as dumb as like the non-security was, I do like the fact that they're like hyper advanced and like listen, like reading the description of Eric, just like lively run towards and avoid all the fight, run towards the control panel and activate basically like a magic thing about the deck that nobody knew about. Pretty cool. I like that kind of stuff, personally.
I got off on it.
So what were they exposing? Here, Brayden, here's an idea, thought experiment for you. What was the exposure that was happening?
I think that's just like a question. I don't know, it's like a thought experiment.
Every thought Brayden has is a thought experiment.
Hey Brayden, here's a complicated physics question. If I drop, where direction go? Down.
There was something I wanted to say about the Drode and why it was
unnecessary.
Yeah, why the Drode was here instead of Krayak. I think it would have been more sensical. It would have kept things more streamlined if it was just Krayak that showed up in the same way that the Ellimist did in these episodes. But they couldn't just have Jake's thing now be a close relationship to Krayak, or like not necessarily a close relationship, but like a direct tie to an enemydom with Krayak, and then also Rachel's thing be the same. Like, I imagine this character is supposed to show up a lot now, and maybe in earlier drafts, they were just supposed to be Krayak, just like getting straight up in Rachel's face and being like, join me, Rachel, on the dark side. I'll give you power for Jake's dead body. But like, they kind of realized eventually that it was boring to just use that for the same character who's just hauntingly, omnipresently whispering threats. So they introduced this more punchable enemy, the Drode.
It's basically the Count Dooku of this universe. Eventually he'll get taken out, but he's going to seem not as important when that happens.
The thing with Krayak is he's an eye in a robot on a pedestal. Like, he doesn't actually have a body or an ability to move around, is my thinking. So he has recruited the Drode to act as his servant in, like, on Earth or in any other plane that he needs it.
But he can speak across the universe through telepathy.
Yeah, he actually can't. I don't think he can. All he does is he will transport you to his world, but that's kind of what he can do. And then I guess so he's recruited the Drode to do his work for him. And this is the wild card, is that you don't know when the Krayak is going to lay a trap or a game.
Yeah, also, can we talk about that? The word wild card and how it doesn't make any sense for the situation we're in right now?
I mean, we don't know what the species Drode is. Maybe they just use wild card as shitty asshole, and that's the definition.
That's a bad reason, though, because then it's like, well, then any word can mean anything to any alien anytime, and we don't get to understand it. If that's the case, that would suck. I think it's maybe just, honestly, the author not understanding what the word wild card means. Because to me, a wild card could do something good or bad, right? And he's clearly just evil, like, and that's fine, but don't call yourself a wild card if you're evil.
I do want to counter the one point that you made earlier about how, Eric comes and shuts down the self-destruct and it's fine, and then the Drode is furious because he can't do anything. Well, no. The Drode and Krayak can only set up a game with the very specific rules that Ellimist had mentioned before, but they can't do anything to fudge those rules. So they just have to make it as difficult as possible, but they cannot rewrite the rules as they go. They're very lawful evil in that sense.
So we're just basically agreeing with each other, because any creature that has a shitload of rules that they absolutely can't break
does not not a wild card. No, yeah, wild card is kind of a bad name for it, for sure.
I think it sounds like the kind of name that, like, someone's like, if I call myself this enough.
It'll be, he's like, Drode, it means wild card. And they're like, all of his friends in college are like, not even friends, but people he just met, they're like, yeah, sure it is. It's like that one guy in college who tried to call himself Chaz, and it just did not work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, his name wasn't far off. Like, he went by Chaz, but like his real name was Chase, so it's like, why did you make it even douchier?
Anyways, Brayden, you were gonna say something.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, like, guys, I think this is completely a change of subject, but I think everyone from now on should just call me Mad Dog.
I mean, I already call you that behind your back, so... But I'll never give you the satisfaction of saying it to your face.
Burn. Going with you. Was that what you were going to say, Brayden?
Yeah.
Because that's okay.
Yeah, I guess it was.
Next week, in our bi-weekly and final episode of Live from the Gardens, we'll be talking about the sperm whale and the giant squid. And then after that, we're actually going to have 2 episodes that are like, not really wrap up because we're only halfway through, but it's like the halfway mark wrap up of the first half of the series. And we'll be talking about different topics and questions and stuff that aren't constrained by one single book. If you guys have any questions that you want us to talk about or discuss, even if it's just a question that has a 1-word answer, that's totally fine. You can contact us. We've got... Well, where can they contact us, Tessa?
You can contact us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Twitter and Facebook, probably the best ones to contact us at. But we are also
Instagram,
on Tumblr.
too.
I know, but like Facebook and Twitter are just the most user-friendly for having conversations.
True, yeah.
So like you can still talk to us on Instagram and Tumblr, but those are going to be the easiest ways to talk to us. It's through social media. And if you want to look at all of our cool stuff, like other episodes, collectivelegacy.org has got those all in a convenient place. Or if you don't listen to podcasts, we've actually also got a YouTube channel with all of the podcast episodes out as videos on that.
And remember to subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, or any other podcatcher that you use. Ha 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 ha! Or else you'll be left alone.
Just left alone. Like, we'll just leave you alone if you don't listen to us. That's fine.
you know, we'll just leave you alone. You know, you won't get to hear our great banter.
You can show your support for our show at our Patreon page, patreon.com/DORKBAJIR.
We offer special bonuses for patrons like access to our Discord server, Animorphs essays written by us, and much, much more. Y'all, we get so sexy on that Discord server.
And at the end of every episode, we like to give a shout out to our patrons that are at the Dork-Bajir level or higher, and we give them a swanky little Animorphs style title.
Big shout out to Anyanka, the Deep.
Steam Driven, the Punk.
Spencer, La Punk.
Greg Della Posta, the TT.
Shanna, the Banana.
Mariah Wamskins, the Guitarist.
That's a new patron, Mariah, thank you. Andrew Vila, the Sperm Whale.
Oh, bringing it back.
For the Fanimorphs, my name is Mikhail, the host.
I'm Tessa, the expert.
And I'm Brayden. And I just turned on Discord notifications again. Sorry, I was in a no-fly zone for a while, so I had those off. And I just remembered that I had them off. So I'll be much more active in that very soon. Sorry.
Brayden, you don't have wings. You don't fly.
Brayden, the Notified. And this has been Fanimorphs,
the Dork-Bajir Chronicles.
Oh my god, we're not saying it in unison now, are
Yeah,
we?
that's
This is gonna
not
be a
good.
bitch to edit.
That would
Also, it's just impossible. Like, we'll never get the same cadence.
It'll never get the same cadence unless, like, Mikhail does it, and then you do. Oh, it just sounds. We have a bad podcast, guys.
Yeah. Definitely.
Oh, heads up. This is a bad show. Just bow out right now.
What do you want to eat right now? Jinx.
I'm Mitch.
And I'm Sophie. And this is
We Watch Food.
a podcast all about the food we like to watch.
We'll talk all about the best, the craziest, and the tastiest TV, movies, and YouTube channels.
Not to mention trendy food fads and sumptuous food trivia.
Plus, we end every episode with a recipe from one of us.
So join us every Saturday for a new episode and a new insight into what makes us watch so much food.
You can find us at collectivelegacy.org, as well as a bunch of other awesome podcasts.
Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at We Watch Food.
And on Twitter at WeWatchFoodPod. So I've been Mitch.
I'm Sophie.
Bye-bye.
Bye!
Brought to you by
Collective Legacy.
a podcast network.